Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, our distinguished delegates, colleagues from election management bodies across the world, and our friends of democracy. Before beginning the session, I guess the more appropriate time is to do a certain traditional neck scarf ceremony of Manipur. This is Lengyan, is a traditional scarf worn in the state of Manipur only. One of the Astha Lakshmi or 8 northeast states of India. It's worn by both men and women, especially during cultural events. It's usually gifted to special guests, and here the special guest is Dr. Bernard Money, sir. It's worn both by men and women as well. It's usually gifted to special guests, signifying a warm welcome, a symbol of Kangla Shah. The motif is also known as dragon lion, and it is symbolized as the state emblem of Manipur. It represents power, courage, protection, and justice. It represents the rich history, royal heritage, and strong traditional beliefs. The design is inspired by the historical and cultural closeness with the neighboring Southeast Asian countries. For the same, I would like to invite our CEO, sir, Dr. Shailesh Kumar Chaurasia, to give away that particular symbol of love and respect. Now I would like to invite our joint CEO, Lakshore, sir, to please felicitate the rest of the delegates and speakers. Thank you. Well, they say democracy doesn't begin on polling day. It begins much earlier, quietly, administratively, sometimes invisibly. At the moment, a citizen is able to say, I'm registered, I belong, I count. Well, voter registration, therefore, is not a procedural formality. It's a gateway to political participation, the first handshake between the state and the citizen. When that handshake is simple, inclusive, and trustworthy, democracy stands tall. When it's complex or inaccessible, participation erodes, and silently but steadily. Well, in this context, our session is on ease of political participation in voter registration. As you must be knowing that India assumed critical relevance under India's chairship of International IDEA 2026, guided by the overarching vision of democracy for an inclusive, peaceful, resilient, and sustainable world. The session squarely addresses the core democratic challenges of our times: how to expand access without compromising integrity. Against this global backdrop, we have identified different thematic pillars and 43 interconnected thematic areas, where 7 for global roadmaps, policy briefs, and tools, 11 for model international electoral standards, and 25 global best practices and innovations in electoral processes. About IICDEM, let's begin with this. IIIDEM, under the aegis of ECI and in partnership with International IDEA, is organizing the international conference, which you all are aware of, The conference is structured around the overarching theme of India's chairship and the thematic priorities that I have already told. Heads and senior officers from close to 45 election management bodies and countries are participating alongside leading experts in democracy, elections, governance, technology, law, media, and communication. Let's begin with a brief introduction of the session, though I have already given a little one. Voter registration is actually the entry point of democratic participation, which I mentioned earlier. Simplicity, accessibility, and reliability determine who gets counted. Inclusive registers strengthen legitimacy, trust, and representative governance. Barriers at registration stage quietly dilute the participation. Let's end up this. When registration is accessible, participation follows, and democracy scales. That's how it deals with it. Now let me just introduce the moderator and the panelist of a session. Our moderator is Mr. Shailesh Kumar Chaurasia, CEO, Manipur. Dr. Chaurasia is a career bureaucrat of the Manipur Cadre 2007 batch, whose professional journey reflects both administrative depth and academic rigor. He has held key portfolios across finance, education, health, and power in the government of Manipur and Jharkhand, domains where policy decisions directly intersect with citizen trust and institutional credibility. What distinguishes his rare blend of practice and theory. On the ground, his electoral experience is equally formidable. He has served as returning officer for the autonomous district council elections in Manipur, district election officer during the Lok Sabha elections, and as additional chief electoral officer during the Jharkhand Assembly elections 2019. Each role sharpening his insight into the operational realities of voter registration, role integrity, and inclusion. Since assuming office as Chief Electoral Officer Manipur in August 2025, Dr. Chaurasia has been actively involved in streamlining pre-SIR activities, reinforcing the foundations. In this context, now I would like to invite and introduce Dr. Bernard Morning, the member. Sorry. Could you please play? Member of Electoral Commission. Commissioner? Oh, okay, okay, sorry. Now I would like to invite sir to say a few words. Would you like to, please?
That's regarding the ease of political participation, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oops. Sorry. Okay. I come from Seychelles, and I'm not too sure if you're aware that Seychelles is a very small republic in the middle of the Indian Ocean, right? And the population is just above 100,000. So managing 100,000 people is not the same as 1 million people, right? So in Seychelles, political parties and civil society are very much in touch with the Electoral Commission. We have many meetings with the civil society and political parties. So especially in the year of the election. So once the year of election starts, we have a number of meetings with all stakeholders, including the political parties and the civil society, different civil society bodies, NGOs, and you name it. And so we also provide access by law. We have to give a copy of the electoral register, the register to all political parties, including a soft copy. So political parties basically have a copy of the register in hand, and they can track in their districts 100,000 people. The biggest county in Seychelles is about 4,500 people. So that gives them the opportunity to use AI and even Excel to basically go through the list and compare it with the people in their districts and basically establish who has registered and who hasn't. So it's fairly easy for them to basically establish who are the people who are missing on the voter register. And like I mentioned before, it's mandatory that the Electoral Commission provides the political parties with a copy of the register. So this is how we facilitate voter registration. And at the same time, we have vigorous campaigns on TV, on WhatsApp, and as well as online on our website to basically encourage young people to register for voting. Because in Seychelles, you cannot be included on the register. You have to personally come and register for you to be able to vote. However, the law was changed in 2025, which allows all young people who will be turning 18 on the day of the election to be included on the list. That's like pre-registration, meaning they come in and submit their application to register for voting, even if they are not 18 yet qualified to vote. But if on the day of the election they will be 18, they will turn 18, then the Electoral Commission registers them.
Elections are held after how many years?
The election?
Are held
every 5 years.
So I have to wait for 5 years to get myself registered.
Well, you get the register for the first, for instance, last year in September and October we had an election. So every political party got a copy of the master register, the whole register of voters. And the political parties, they already know their districts, basically their counties. They know how many people in their counties, right? So they basically have a database of their voters, don't they? Potential voters and voters as well. So they can easily monitor who is on the list, who is in the database and not on the voter register. And as a result of that, we have a very high turnout for elections. For instance, in 2025, that's just a few months ago, it was about 86% of the voters came to vote. So that explains how basically because it's a small society, so it's fairly easy to get practically all voters who want to vote. However, having said that, since the 1990s, basically, we've noticed that every election there are at least 8,000 people on the voter register who never turn up to vote. So these are people who basically choose not to vote. It's not because they are not on the list. It's simply because they are not exercising their right to vote. Any questions? That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you that you brought a governance-rich perspective to this room. Thank you once again. Play करना है सर का, not this one. आपका है सर, CEO सर का, CEO सर का presentation, CEO PPT. This one. Now I'd like to invite our CEO, sir, to kindly present on the particular topic that has been mentioned. Thank you.
Distinguished delegates and esteemed invitees from this family of democracy and election, a very good afternoon to all of you. I'm pleased to stand before you to make a small presentation on ease of political participation in voter registration. When we talk about political participation, it starts much earlier. If one person, one boy, one girl thinks about political affairs, he or she has opinion about politics or towards a politician, that is also a part of political participation, because we think for the nation, we think for the how democracy runs, that is political participation. However, here we would confine to political participation in voter registration. This is one watershed where from where you can actively participate in politics. Political participation include voting, contesting, participating in dialogue. However, the quality participation starts with this voter registration, and that's why this is the most important part of any democracy. How we choose, how we select a person to vote. Most of the democracies of the world believes in now universal suffrage. And this is a very big challenge for each and every election management bodies to ensure that whoever is eligible as per the laws of the nation, laws of the state, should be counted. There lies the problem, and this is very mammoth for countries like India and many other countries where population is high, the stake is high. And when we talk about participation, or rather voter registration, it is not only maximizing the number of voters. In fact, purity of voter is also very important. How we maintain that register, how we maintain the electoral roll is a big challenge. Our colleague from Seychelles beautifully analyzed how it happens in Seychelles. And it is quite possible, quite doable in a country with 100,000 population. However, when we talk about a country like India, where you have almost 1 billion voter, it's really a tedious task. There are bottlenecks, there are pitfalls. We keep coming, we keep improving our structure, we keep improving our system so that we capture everyone eligible to vote without any discrimination, caste, class, sex, religion, anything. We go beyond and try to reach to the most vulnerable section, to the most marginalized section, so that the representation is good and representation is universal, so that the democracy is strong. We have representation from, so this is a very crucial element of democracy. Now, I have a small presentation that will go by slide, and would like to explain certain things. And I feel we can go question answer at the end after all the speakers speak, so that we can have, then you can raise question to any speaker, and likewise we will go with. By the way, thank you for to Lucky for introducing so beautifully and setting the tone of this the meeting hall. I have already explained the basic imperative, how we are making every eligible citizen to engage meaningfully in the electoral process without barriers. So each and every word is very, very valuable. There should not be barrier. Nobody should be stopped from voting if he or she is eligible. What are the pillars then? What we should try for? There comes inclusiveness, accessibility, and active civic engagement, like empowering. So when we talk about inclusiveness, are we able to include each and everyone, including the most marginalized one, the most living in most remote areas, the people with special abilities? So that method, that structure has to be robust, and that actually is the role of all election management bodies. Now, apart from political participation, if we go down to voter registration, it is certainly, as I already said, this is the gateway. Here you actively participate and you get a right to vote, means you are part of the decision making. Democracy, we say, one person, one vote. That is one most valuable aspect. Nobody has got two votes. Nobody has capacity, ability, right to vote more than one, because, and here we believe in equity. Here lies the importance of election management bodies, and all the states of the world do it differently as per their context, as per their scenario. India, we privileged to be adopting universal suffrage in one stroke. When we got independence, there was no disability. All were included, men, women, of a particular age group. So democracy has always been the agenda of international governance. So what are the provision and different documents talk about? Let's say Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It's also Article 21 guarantees the right to participate in government through free election. So here free election is very important and participation is important, both. If we participate and then election is only rigged, there is no point of that kind of participation. So it is related. Of course, we get the voter registration, but that is not sufficient part. It has to go beyond that. I think very different sessions are being conducted and they are talking about those things. So International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, every citizen right to vote without unreasonable restriction, because every country has some reasonable restrictions. We also have, let's say, a person of unsound mind cannot vote. People below 18 years cannot vote. So these are the, but this is defined and this is executed by law. We cannot just arbitrarily decide that, or one person thinks and do it. No, this is a concerted decision taken by the state by law. Sustainable development goals. Inclusive institutions and participatory decision. When it talks about participatory decision making, it is voter, and then participatory, the true nature of participation will only come if the voters are all inclusive. All kind of people are included, irrespective of their status and other social determinants. Indian Constitution also provides us Article 326. Anybody aged 18 and above can register for vote and they vote. So what is the relevance of voter registration, political participation connecting to voter registration? So this is basically the foundation of electoral process, rather foundation of democracy. Complete and accurate voter. So this EMBs, electoral management body, their sole duty is to keep or maintain a pure voter list. Purity of voter list is very important. improve representative and legitimacy. Again, legitimate government we will only get through proper representation that need to be ensured. And it is everywhere you see election is done by a specialized body, which we talk about the election management body. That is very important. Otherwise, this is not a, this very specific job has to be done around the year that happens. And it matters to practitioners also, because whether it is political parties or the people who are involved in registration and all, they have to go through mammoth structural support and all, which cannot be just manually done all the time. So let's say if we talk about India, so we have a voter registration system online, offline. They have call center facilitated by some round the clock. Integrity and trust, again part of that only. If you trust will only come if the voter registration is truthful. When we talk about barriers, this is not that these barriers always exist. These are the stages. Generally, many of the countries face this kind of barrier and then slowly overcome also. So what are those barriers? Eligibility requirements and unclear deadlines. See, when registration happen, if it happens only once in a year, only once during election, so people will not know. Now it has been overcome differently by different countries. Limited accession point accessible in registration offices. Where to go, how to register. Just think about pre-IT era when it was completely done manually. Documentation requirement actually. So again, what kind of documentation? If you reach to a very remote area or very marginalized section, what certificate you are going to ask? India, we face such problems. So how you overcome those things? Insufficient staff training and inconsistent procedures. We have experimented so much and we have gone through, and this is a course correction. Every stage we keep doing so that the next era we get a error-free and good voter registration system. Multi-secretary approach here. Only voter registration EMB cannot do. It has to pass through. There is relationship between civil society, state agency, political parties, all play vital role, election observers, citizens and voters, because everybody has to be sensitized and they work together towards this achievement. So what bottlenecks earlier we discussed, now how do we overcome those things? So there are structural intervention, there are other processes so that those, let's say, multiple registration channel. It is not only the manual, now we have online, mobile-based, and all that kind of registration is available. Inclusive design is improving every day so that more and more people can be included truthfully. Targeting youth. For targeting youth, at that level, they are very, actually go for if you are an active citizen. So those campaigns, sweep campaigns and all we have done throughout India is like a great example of doing and mobilizing school, colleges and the right kind of population. Voter education is always there, staff training. This is one continuous process, and clear eligibility rules. By now it is set pattern who are in and who should be out. And that's why occasionally we do so how we go by registration. So there are certain examples of automatic voter registration system because they have already mammoth other system like national ID. So national ID already captures each and everyone. So whoever eligible, they are simply taken as a voter. Similarly, let's say some countries very driving license itself become a criteria because they go by that. Let's say Sweden, only tax administration compiles all the like national register, and there from voters. So this is some sort of automation is there. So registration is very easy and seamlessly done. A country like India, we do not have that kind of exclusive system, so we have now multiple channels to go by. Continuous registration. Continuous registration again come if there is continuous registration is like round the year. Earlier used to be occasionally, but let's say India also continuous registration. Anytime you can go to the website, go to the app and register. Even you can reach to the local offices manually also and get registration all the time. Multi-channel registration. Now it is not only manual, but mobile, online, offline, all kind of things are there. And then our BLOs, booth level officers, they facilitate it beautifully. They have proved it many a times. Data integration and civil registry. National civil registry system, in some states it is there and they take data from there. Non-partisan outreach. And EMB, this is the trademark, non-participation. Without that, there is no existence of, there is no significance of an election management body. Global fact sheet, if you go by, so Australia, this is like mandatory by law. So there, the percentage of registration rate talks about the percentage of the probable voters. So it is 96%. Similarly, Sweden, if you see, citizens are registered automatically via tax agency. Tax agency maintains a national registers. From there, DAM certificates, so it's high, 99%. Israel, automatic national ID, say it is ported from there. India, we have achieved more than 95%. This is one indicative data. And we have done it through multiple channels, most and best supported by our booth level last leg workers called booth level officers. And Belgium again compulsory, one of the oldest system of compulsory voting in the world. Pitfalls, it is same as the bottlenecks earlier we discussed. There is nothing new to talk about. Implementation framework, when we go by what to do, this is concurrent and continuous updation in the structure and the system so that wherever we see some lacuna can be overcome. So let's say audit current system, or so always we'll audit and see the gaps, and that gaps has to be filled. Establish clear eligibility rules. Is if there is any vagueness, people will have properly. So that has to be defined. Multiple registration channels we have done, and then many of the countries have gone through that. Launch comprehensive public information campaigns. Campaigning is very important in democracy like India, where the voters in many clusters are not that aware. In fact, their priorities are different, and then when you are struggling with many other things, voting may not be your first priority. So there we need campaign, and that campaign has proved very, very vital, because if you see the Indian democracy, mostly we get higher percentage of vote from rural areas and other remote places rather than urban pockets. So that's another course of this deliberation. However, that doesn't matter. These are the performance indicators, how one country does on voter registration. So what is the rate of registration? Because this conference is one initiation of the one research work which we are going to do in the coming months, maybe 5-6 months. We will come up with one paper. There we will examine throughout all the countries of the world and try to one comparative document. So there these indicators will help us collect data and analyze on that. Registration rate, disaggregated registration rates by age, gender, disability, because if we are missing somewhere, so what is it age-wise or gender-wise or disability? If there is any gap, that we have to look into and grab the opportunity to have some structural improvement. Accuracy, again I say, only registration at random is not useful unless until we maintain purity of the electoral roll. So duplicate voters or anything, and then India would have seen now SIR debate how the whole voter list is being revisited and the purity is tried to be maintained. Awareness, geographical and demographic distribution of registration points. When we talk about registration, it is not about towns and big places, but we reach to the last mile, and then there it's like many times very difficult to do the continuous upgradation, but we are able to do, and that way the democracy is getting strengthened. Registration process, now enough social media and IT, input of IT, incidence of IT has really changed the whole landscape. India's initiative, you see, we have voter helpline app, voter service portal, National Voter Helpline 1950, sweep activities, extensive sweep activities throughout the region. ECI app for PWD is altogether a different story, because that also emphasized by a particular intervention. ECI net is another digital platform. Now during the SIR, bouquet call BLOs, if you do not have any apprehension, any problem or anything, just see app, you can call in one click your BLO and he or she will support you. That kind of intervention has been done. Now, if we talk about Manipur, it's not different from, we are a remote state, and there are physical hindrances, the remoteness wise also, and the kind of marginalized section we have, and then reaching to them, it has been really difficult. However, we have overcome these bottlenecks, and our perform, even like election turnout also we have achieved remarkably. So facilitated youth electors, that is our target. We always do campaign in school, colleges and other places, social arena, through different means. College maybe select ambassadors, and they really work for us, setting up electoral literacy clubs, campaign on let register to vote. This periodically we do it. Special registrant camps, PWD, these are the some snapshot. Voter registration and foundation of democracy. There is no doubt the more it is accessible and reliable registration systems of citizen and strength, electoral legitimacy. EMB practitioner can design. That design is not permanent. It has to be flexible and go on changing. If we talk about what to do now, what we understand at this point of time is we have to leverage technology inclusively, because only manually many things not possible. So we have to leverage technology. Similarly, strengthen community participation is very important. Unless and until people are willing voter, they want to take participation, nothing is mechanical process will not help. In fact, if people are not aware, then their voting right may be misutilized also, because I'm a passive voter, anybody says anything I can go by. So that community participation is very important. Sensitizing is very important. It's simply documentation, and documentation means that should be simple and understandable to the people. Civic education, that is required, because if early phases, say students in the schools and all get little awareness, little understand the system, they will be more sensitized voter, and they would like to be part of that, because the moment they understand we can make the change by our vote, they will certainly go for that. Monitor and address disparity. Disparities, we live in pockets, and there are many, many kinds of disabilities and disparity that we have to overcome, and that should be taken by this. So with that, I would say thank you very much to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now let's transition from an administrative perspective to academic insights. While institutional practice tells us how systems function, academic analysis helps us understand why they succeed or they fail. Let's to complement the practitioner perspective, who would like to invite Dr. Mohammad Farizuddin Khan, Assistant Professor, Dhana Manjuri University. His academic engagement offers a critical lens on voter behavior, participation barriers, and the broader socio-political implications of a registration framework. Thank you, sir. Please proceed.
A very warm welcome, especially to our special guest today, who is also the member of CISL's member of Election Commission, our moderator and CEO of Manipur, Sir Chaurasia, and my fellow presenter, and to everyone who is present here. Now, sir, how much time I should take, sir? 15 minutes. I try to wind up before that. My slides are a bit thick, but I'll be winding up in 15 minutes. So, sir has already given a thematic backdrop of voter registration. I tried my best to, a bit different, but many things will be coinciding because these are topics which we have similar thoughts and similar approaches also. Being in the academic right now, but I was also a part of this election because I was a civil servant state administrator. So the thinking, somehow it coincides. This theme, the theme allocated to us brings us to exploring the importance and significance of political participation as a critical component of the success of voter registration. And globally, if we see what the democratic systems or structures work is having a regular, but not only regular, but free and fair elections. In this context, the pillars of electoral success include inclusivity, accessibility, transparency, integrity and accuracy, and proportionality. And our chairship to the idea, in this context, these themes become very important because we have this chairship theme, which is democracy for inclusive, peaceful, resilient, and sustainable world, which is very much close, which is in tune with India's civilizational heritage and philosophical heritage, which is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the world is family. And the core concepts that I would like to highlight within the theme that I'm going to present, first is about the simple definition of voter registration. So this National Democratic Institute, they have done this OEDI survey and based in Washington in 2026. They define voter registration is the key process that establishes which individuals are eligible to vote or not. So there are basic criteria, 18 years, it's age criteria, being a citizen is priority. So voter registration means it's a key process that establishes which individuals are eligible to vote. This is a layman definition, obviously by this National Democratic Institute. Voter registration is very complex aspect of the electoral processes. And because it is expensive, it is time consuming and requires rigorous periodical monitoring and reviewing. That is what it becomes controversial also, and it becomes very rigorous also and continuously under public scrutiny because it's a very critical component of the entire electoral process. And that's why a well-regulated, standardized, efficient, institutionalized, and professional voter registration legitimize the whole electoral process. So the theme is very important because it legitimizes in the eyes of the public, in the eyes of the world, the entire election process. So easing of registration processes require cooperation and coordination of multiple multi-level stakeholders, and I have given some of the stakeholders as per the Election Commission, which includes the electoral management bodies, officials, election practitioners, and others organized that I'm going to highlight. And finally, dedicated training staff and capacity building exercises is also needed because if staffs are not dedicatedly and sincerely trained, then voters' voluntary participation is dependent on that, becomes a contingent, becomes a victim. So the training citizen voter is very important because if we leave out to voters, then this voluntarily registration in a country as huge, as diverse, it becomes very difficult. The system, that is the election management bodies, has to make the citizens aware of the value that civic accountability towards universal voting. So to confer localized grassroots legitimacy to the entire electoral process, EMBs and election practitioners must ensure that voter registration component is effective, transparent, inclusive, accountable, and accessible to all. Why is this theme matters, like ease of political participation in voter registration? The relevance. Voter registration, as I already mentioned, is a gateway to political participation. That is why barriers at this very stage significantly undermined the universal right to vote in contemporary functioning democracies such as ours. So different democracies have differing voter registration systems that has also highlighted a few. I would come to that, but one commonality among all the systems that is functioning contemporary democracies is that active participation of stakeholders and their respective roles in delivering an efficient registration mechanism system which is accessible as well as inclusive for all without any discrimination. So the themes, our project, focus is to conduct a comparative studies of as many countries, democratic countries. We have around more than 200 countries which is recognized by the United Nations. So it's a bit impossible to study all, but we'll be selective in, so it will be like more than at least like nearly 100 countries will be picked up in the next 7-8 years that we have been given time. And we will study different democratic systems as to how different stakeholders in those systems participate in inclusive registration system to ascertain existing problems, gaps, challenges, keeping in mind the robust system that we have in our own country, and to identify, learn, and document best practices after studying those countries in a comparative framework so that countries can strengthen their voter registration process. And this is very critical since India is going to hold chairship of International IIDEM. So stakeholders I was talking about, it includes EMVs, political parties, voters, media, civil society organizations, even think tank, which are specifically working, and New Delhi has a lot, very reputed also, and we'll be tying up with other also, and NGOs, etc. These are stakeholders. Now, what are global trends and emerging patterns? Just let's see. This is a study done by ACE in 2006, a bit old, but in this study, which is very critical because this studies doesn't happen every 5 years or 6 years, so whatever available sources, I picked up this study. They studied more than 200 countries, to be specific, 204 countries, and 64% of elections are done by respective EMBs. Like all these countries, 64% of these countries studied, more than 200 countries, EMBs run elections in these democratic systems. Second is on the voter list is compulsory in majority of the countries studied, that is 56%, a bit more than half. That means if you are not registered in an official registry, then you are not eligible to vote. Third is, being a citizen is on top of qualifying criteria. That means if you are not a citizen, in 96% of 200 countries studied across the globe, if you're not a citizen of that particular country, you're not eligible. And finally, 18 years cutoff age is also prevalent in dominant majority of this country, 87. Now, these 4 things that I have highlighted because our country, India, these 4 important criteria are there. This is in tune with India's current system. That means 18 years, being citizen, voters on the voter list, and it is done by the Election Commission of India nationally. Now, what are the challenges? This is according to International IDEA Global Election Monitoring, technological and digital gap is very important, which is again familiar with India because of rural-urban divide that we have seen, which is a reality. Misinformation and disinformation narratives, this is new. For example, in the United States, you have these fake videos, campaigns using AI deepfakes and fake accounts campaigning. This is very prevalent in the United States, also in other countries. Election-related violence, including gender-based violence, is also an emerging threat across the globe in Africa and other Asian countries. Climate change related or affected, it affects field operations, and which is seen in 2024 in India itself, in Western UP and other northern states. Because of heat wave, lots of officials have been affected, including the voters also. And third, the last is compromising electoral integrity. This is also an emerging threat. Our thematic study will focus on how the EMBs have responded to these emerging challenges related to the theme. These are some stakeholders that you have seen. This is an map where I picked up only 5 countries. Canada is part of IDEA. Australia is a member of IDEA. South Africa is a member of IDEA. United States has observer, and United Kingdom is not the member of IDEA. So 3 countries. So in Canada, this scrutiny is in Canada, if you could see, this is equivalent to our BLAs, booth level agents that we have. United States, they have poll watchers and challengers, which are by local candidates and political parties. United Kingdom have a very robust system of electoral registrations, which is the official, and election agents and tellers. And tellers are those people who actually find out who does the purification thing. If eligible voters are there, they find out. They are local, very sincere people. Australia has, Sarah has also said, Australia has this law which compulsorily enables citizens to register for vote, unlike in India and other systems. And South Africa is also a very important country in Africa, in the world also, where party agents act like BLAs. Now these countries, this is just 5 countries, will be studying across these 5-6 months we have been giving, or 7-8 months that we'll be picking nearly 100 countries, and based on certain key indicators, we will try to objectify the accuracy, accessibility, and all these things. What are the similarities with India, keeping always, in point the current system we have in India as the chair of the international. So best practice and model standards. The study, what are the minimum guarantees required for smooth and credible functioning? North American countries, Canada and US, permanent and automatic database. If you look into Indian context, it's active enrollment drives, continuous registration system, as well as periodic listing system, direct updates, which is complementing your Indian system, proactive local canvassing, which is also a bit similar to India, where UK is a model, and active individual registration, which happens in South Africa. We'll be focusing on legal foundations as well. Moving on. Again, if we have to somehow discursively put into which one system among the 5 countries or some 10 countries that I have picked up, which is the base. If base means ensuring the highest percentage of population is actually on the roll, then United Kingdom makes a strong case. This is because they have this annual canvassing, which is very effective, and the consequent is that 90 to 95% registration, which is like functioning democracies, it is very high. If we look into base for ease of use, like ease of registration, Canadian system is very effective. And finally, if we have to look into this criteria category of best civic accountability, Australia, because of their constitutional mandate that every Australians have to register for vote. So these are 3 categories that I have. And this kind of objectification actually could help the Election Commission to do a much better election processes. It might help. Now, I will come, the second session, I have another 5-6 slides, but I'll go very fast. State election management bodies experience. And this is, from my perspective, not official as per, because I'm an academic, so I can have a bit of independence, but I have seen this. This is the observational method, and we have BLOs. So takeaway points from evolving trends in our state, Manipur. Number 1 is increased accessibility. Sir has already mentioned also sweep campaign team, Aikoi voter Chalasi, let's register to vote. This is a very successful in the some past years. This is actively done in colleges, even in universities, and across local clubs and all. And this is suitable to localized outreach. Unlike in many states, I think some of us who are in Manipur might agree also, BLOs have some dignity. BLOs enjoy actually what they are doing it. They are roaming like with card and all that, I am BLO. During the election, on the day of the polling day also. This is something that we should take advantage of in Manipur, which is a better conducive environment to operate in Manipuri society, at least in the valley districts, comparatively high voter turnout. Cordial environment for active mobilization using BLOs and BLAs as well, and collaboration with local social media influencers, celebrities for information dissemination, active participation among youths. Inclusivity, trans persons, they have become from a marginalized to an active participants, active agents in the political participation campaigns, which is very good. Like, at least when it comes to voter participations, their faces are on the campaign advertisements, and they're very proud of it. Many of them are very highly respected influencers also has become, and because of this is all because of state election management bodies also putting them in front of public faces and making them active agents, not marginalized. And more women participation in electoral process thanks to active women groups as usual in the state. Mera Paibis, the women groups, self-help groups, they are very active. And if we have done multiple surveys, and it proves that women voter participation is very, very high, even within the 8 northeastern states. And this is something that we can do some scale up also, by using this age. Gender participation and assessment. This is from a study with Manipur University and Election Commission, which was done in 2024. This is a CAP report. And if you look at gender ratio and gender parity line, this is the 1,000. So how many women per 1,000 male? So except in 1984, I guess, you have like voting, enrollment ratio has always been high and in favor of women. And this is from 1972 to 2002 data. State election was held in, assembly election was held in 2022. So as per, we have only 2022 data. And this is district-wise electoral sex ratio 2000. We have 16 districts, and except one district, which is a peripheral district, which is adjacent to Assam, which used to be Imphal East district, but now a separate district, Jiribam. And Jiribam, I would like to why it is, except these others have like high electoral sex ratio, which is beyond or 1,000 district-wise. This is 2005 data, and this is 2024 data. Now, source of information. This is again, so the biggest source of information for voter enrollment happens to be BLO. So as I said, I think I'm right when I say that BLOs have some dignities. They feel that they are dignified election agents in their society as localized grassroots level, because BLOs are very strong connections. They are shaping, they have connections with local voters and the election management bodies. So BLOs 60%, and next highest thing is local community leaders. Members in the family who are 18 plus of age and not registered, Chandel district has 0 because it is a positive sign, because it says that none of the family has been left out. So if you see in hilly district, Kamjong is a hilly district, None is a hilly district, Imphal East, Imphal West. So you have this, Churachampur has some problem with it. Reasons 18 plus, district-wise, easy to getting EPIC. This is a survey. And key learnings. I'll be winding up in 2 minutes. So overall state gender electoral role is high. District-wise ratio is high, except in the Jiribam district 2025. Women-related welfare schemes are prevalent. And it seems, I said it seems because we don't have concrete evidence as of now, as with voter turnout, it seems that this is linked to higher electoral registration in Manipur. BLOs are active and carry dignity. This is an observational states, and may perhaps from other country also, particularly Bangladesh, but from other states. Recommendations: institutional strengthening and outreach, improve coordination with BLOs and BLAs, especially strengthening and enhance the roles of BLAs, which is lagging behind. Administrative clarity and coordination, training and capacity building. Digital integrity is very important because given the misinformation and disinformation narratives. Support law enforcer in identifying and punishing violators timely. These are recommendations. And the conclusion is that this document outlines a comparative analysis of countries across regions and continents to identify and share innovative strategies for improving the voter registration processes. It will establish a comprehensive framework designed to help EMVs remove administrative and social barriers that hinder political participation. The methodology emphasizes evidence-based research and stakeholder collaboration to ensure these reforms are adaptable to different national contexts. Ultimately, the thematic project's output serves as a practical guide to strengthening democratic inclusion and maintaining the integrity of elections worldwide. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now let's transition towards the legal safeguards and electoral integrity. Well, to reflect on this crucial legal dimension, I would like to invite Mr. Tim Haubam, Advocate and Standing Counsel for the Election Commission of India, CEO Manipur, High Court of Manipur, and his perspective will help us understand how law functions as both an enabler and a guardian of electoral integrity.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. If everyone is feeling unusually calm and reflective right now, it's not the topic. It's actually the lunch doing its constitutional duty. I would like to thank the Election Commission of India for giving me this opportunity. It is indeed a privilege and an honor to speak before such esteemed members. As a lawyer, I approach voter registration not merely as an administrative procedure, but as a legal doorway through which political participation begins. If that doorway is narrow, unclear, or inconsistently regulated, participation suffers, not because citizens are unwilling, but because the law and its procedure make participation difficult. That is why ease of voter registration lies at the heart of democratic legitimacy. This session and this theme emphasizes that simple, reliable, and accessible voter registration is the foundation of broad political participation in credible elections. From a legal standpoint, complexity itself can become a barrier. Overly demanding documentation requirements, unclear deadlines, or limited access points may appear neutral in law, but in practice, they disproportionately affect first-time voters, the elderly, persons with disabilities, displaced populations, and those with limited documentations. Therefore, the law must focus not only on formal rules, but on the real-world impact. At the same time, the law carries the responsibility of safeguarding integrity of the voter register or the voter roll. Election administrators or EMB operate within the constitutional and statutory mandate, but with government agencies, civil society organizations, political parties, and election observers all play legally recognized roles. When these roles are clearly defined and effectively coordinated, registration becomes more inclusive and credible. I'll begin with a brief comparative glances of different legal regimes of the countries that was highlighted by Professor Mohammed Farizuddin Khan. I begin with Canada, which follows a facilitative state-assisted legal model. Under the Canada Election Act, voter registration is largely a continuing responsibility of the state, of the government, through the Permanent National Register of Electors. Citizens are automatically enrolled and updated using reliable government data. And the law even permits same-day registration at polling stations. Legally speaking, the burden on the voter is minimal, while integrity is maintained through clear verification standards. This approach treats access as default, not as the exception. In the United Kingdom, the law has moved from household registration to individual electoral registration. This shift strengthened the legal emphasis on accuracy and personal responsibility. While the process is legally clear and technologically accessible, concerns still remain about under-registration among young voters and mobile populations. The legal lesson to be learned here is that accuracy-driven reform must be accompanied by safeguard against inadvertent exclusions. In Australia, it offers one of the strongest examples of laws being used proactively to secure participation. Under the Commonwealth Electoral Act, enrollment is not only a right but an obligation, a legal duty, supported by compulsory voting. The Australian Electoral Commission is empowered directly to enroll and update voter using government data, even without individual applications. Here the law frames voter registration not as a privilege or a right, but as a civic obligation, significantly reducing structural barriers. In South Africa, the case of South Africa reminds us of India also, because they have a similar history of discriminations and underrepresentations. So they have a transformative nature in their constitution also, like ours. So South Africa reminds us of the constitutional importance of inclusion. Its voter registration framework shaped the country's history. It places strong emphasis on universal suffrage and public confidence. The law supports extensive registration drives, transparency, and opportunities for public inspection and objection. So inclusion is not incidental, but a constitutional imperative aimed at repairing past exclusions. Lastly, in United States represents a very unique system, because it's a very unique federal structure, so very highly decentralized. So each state has a different system. For example, Dr. Mohammad Farizun Khan talked about the importance of having non-partisan EMBs. Federally speaking, they have a Federal Election Commission, but each state has the election is done by the Secretary of State for each states, which are politically elected. So non-partisanship does not necessarily ensure integrity, or it doesn't necessarily places or increases trust. So in United States, the legal framework is, as I said, highly decentralized, with each state regulating voter registration and within the broad federal boundaries set by statutes like National Voter Registration Act. Some states have, in United States, have embraced automatic and same-day registration, while other imposes strict deadlines and identification requirements. As some of you might be surprised, it's very surprising for us Indians. But voter ID laws are still controversial in United States. Here we have, like we treat it as a default here, like everyone has a voter ID card. But in United States, it's still a controversial subject, whether to have mandatory voter ID laws or not. As lawyers, we see a constant legal tension between access and regulation. I myself, a student of public choice theory, I give a healthy amount of skepticism for over-regulation. So taken together, this system reveals an important legal insight, where law places primary responsibility for registration on the state, as in the case of Canada and Australia, where participation is higher and disputes are fewer, where responsibility rests heavily on individuals or fragmented authorities, as in the parts of United States or United Kingdom. Exclusion and legal contestation are common. And however, South Africa shows us how law can be consciously prioritized for inclusion and to restore democratic legitimacy. In conclusion, comparative experience confirms a central message of this session. Voter registration laws should function as an enabling framework, not as a gatekeeping device. Sound legal designs lowers unnecessary barriers, applies rule consistently, and strengthens both participation and the trust in the electoral process. Thank you.
Thank you, team, for an excellent presentation. Of course, it was not PPT, but the overall idea brought in is very useful and synchronous with the given topic. Now, I feel all the speakers have spoken. The floor is open for question answer session. We'll be elated if we get some good questions to answer. Thank you.
My first question to Muhammad Fakhruddin Khalji. So you have pointed out the percentage of participation of women, including registration and voter turnout in Manipur, is very, very high. Success to accept IIIDEM. So why it is so, sir? So whether the male member are not interested in election registration in Manipur or what? What is the main?
Hello. Yes. Thank you for the question. Regarding the electoral roll registration, women comparatively are higher than except in one district. This is because of the generally in Manipuri society comparatively, relatively equivalent position of women and male. Particularly women generally thinks that the participation, that means the household, what to say, the patriarchal structure is relatively loose and women are allowed to lead the family. They have women markets and all these things. So this is a sociological and economic factor. So it has been done, so generally it has. I was concerned about why IIIDEM. That was the concern because that is a general train. I think I get it. Thank you.
From my brief research, am I audible? From my brief research on the topic, the legal regime in Australia ensures that they maintain a list, a register of citizens which are about to become eligible. They maintain it first. And then when they attain the age of majority or when they attain it's different in some provinces. It's not 18 in some provinces. So when they attain the age of eligibility, they automatically get enrolled in the electoral. Yes. But how it is being ensured? Obligation to vote is ensured. That's what you said. How? The electoral participation is ensured by mandating under the law. Any punishment is offered? I'm not sure about that.
I think I would complement his answer. Basically, Australia, if you don't vote, you have notices will be issued. Notices will reach to you, and then if satisfactory answer, if you are not able to go, then some fine can also be imposed on you. So that way they ensure. Thank you.
Sir, I have a question. Sir, in our country, political parties normally appoint BLAs, block level agents. So that is one of the most effective way of participation by the political parties. That has a check also on the working of the BLOs. But in some of the states it's working very nicely. But in other states, the functions and appointment of BLAs is rather just negligible. So I think we can effectively get the political participation of the parties in the voter registration by activating the BLAs. They can definitely have a check and coordination with the BLOs. That's my suggestion, sir.
Yeah, certainly what you are putting forward, because this also creates a checks and balance. If my BLO is not working, then BLA can check why did not you do or why did you do this wrongly. So that's a very good. We are encouraging and we are trying to get maximum number of BLAs. In many cases, all the political parties appoint, and that is more like exclusive, and then checks and balances is perfect.
And so that will also serve the purity
Certainly.
of our electoral rules. Thank you.
So
sir.
our voting system, if you see, once you go inside a booth to vote, there are agents are sitting. So if somebody is trying to put dummy vote and all, that is neglected, I mean like countered. So that's the way to maintain transparency and accountability. That's a very good suggestion. We are trying.
सर एक क्वेश्चन ही सर मान लीजिए सीओ सर से ही है, क्योंकि सर आप सीओ सर है इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ आपको ही। कोई भी आता है सर हमारे सिस्टम को ऐसा ऐसा बोलते हैं on the social media platform. I'm talking about the political leaders, big enough. So why blatantly they are saying this thing, that thing, this is not correct, that is not correct, that's देखो ये हो गया, वो हो गया, हो गया। हम आगे आके क्यों नहीं बोलते हैं तुम यहाँ पर गलत हो? सामने सामने कैसे गलत है वो एक्सप्लेन कैसे नहीं क्यों नहीं करते? Just my right.
Yes, I get it. See, we are the state. State cannot retort. Better we improve our system and structures. So what actually happened, whenever any complaint comes, because citizen has right to raise questions. The constitution has given them the right. So we cannot simply stop them from speaking. So what actually happened when things come up? So our upgradation, if you see in the system, this is in response to the complaints also and then other lacunae. So this is part of lacunae. If somebody is raising a valid question, there is no harm in accepting and improving our system. So that has been happening. Of course, you cannot answer day in and day night, and you know, if you are using social media, Twitter, if you one reply, if you are putting 100 kind of nonsensical reply will come here and you will not be able to sleep also. You will get angry. So all the time we don't need to answer straightforward in somebody's face itself. So you take your time. We do. Any such thing comes, we do periodical press conference, then press brief also sometimes we feel, we give in newspaper press brief, in social media has become very confident these days. We are doing very periodically.
Between the registration and the actual cast of the vote, sir. So what is your take on that, sir?
So if you go by the election record year by year, things are improving because indifference of the people. Many times the set in mind is, मेरा एक vote से क्या होगा? So that now people have started understanding, and then there are some existential problem also because people wherever they are registered all the time they are not in that same place. So that these are a structural thing. And then if you talk about, we are doing SIR, lakhs and lakhs of dead voters and are being eliminated. Tell me where, how you are making them vote. So purity of the electoral roll is very important. This is something like right sizing your denominator. If your denominator is not right, then your percentage will never go up. In spite of so much of efforts, that denominator, and then SIR is the right way of right sizing the denominator. And one more thing, indifference. If you see what is happening, wherever there is participation, let's say villages and all, where certain welfare schemes are coming, they identify with the government. So they think if you are not choosing the right kind of people, our benefits might not come in that way. So they are more aware. But one Delhi, Mumbai or some post area, some families are there, they are not bothered about it. I have availed everything, so even if I don't vote, what does it matter? So that inactivity slowly is going on, and then for that election commission you might have seen throughout the time they try their best and things are improving, and certainly it will keep on improving.
So that's why, sir, increased voter turnout in Bihar, the credit was given to SIR because the denominator was rectified. So it was increased. Now there is also one concept that why nota should be there instead of wasting 2 to 4% of the vote. Why not the person who is available in the list most suitable? Means the nota, it is kind of negative voting. It is not recording anything, but rather it is taking away a certain potentiality of the winning chances of a particular candidate or maybe the second runner-up. So instead of wasting this vote in nota, in form of nota, none of the above, why shouldn't be there that these are the candidates, now you do not have any option, you should go for the best one out of this one. Because we have seen over the years, even despite the provision of this nota, political parties, they are not being pressurized in such a way that they are putting any alternative in the candidature.
This is one conscious decision by law. The government has taken decision for nota and it has benefit. I want to protest. I don't find anybody. So that is one legal position in way that we cannot question here whether nota should be there or should not be. It cannot be our matter of discussion here, I think. This is one provision. If people feel, may well. Thank you. Yes, you are right. At least they are politically aware, their political participation is coming on the way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is Satrughna, an LMT from Odisha. Thanks for the nice presentation, particularly Mr. Khan, Dr. Khan. It was nice research, I think, on this voter participation. Sir, this is we can take it as in-house discussion. Looking forward to the ease of registration. As we see in number of countries, can we think of having registration like we did the prospective voters enrollment? Now we are taking up the 17 plus people in the roll and taking advance applications in India. So can you think like, registry from birth, the citizen registry, to do away with all these things, and when they graduate to 18 or 18 plus, then they can be enrolled. So in this forum, can we just think of this and moot an idea that we can have such type of citizen registry linked with voter registration? How do you see in the context of India?
So that is the progression we are inching towards. Once you have a very element, let's say, now if you talk about even Aadhaar doesn't have that much of universal availability. So we don't want to make anybody, don't want to deprive anyone. So one day you are very see, any identity card to be made basis, it has to be completely undisputed. So now we are in transition. Any document we have is a highly contested. You see, Aadhaar mein you see people go to High Supreme Court has also given certain direction and all. So one day certainly we are looking forward, we will have a very authentic like register or any like population register or anything. That can be the basis. Of course, we are slowly, I feel, inching towards that.
Actually, we in the field do like that. When we go for verification of the, that is the eligibility of the voters, we ask the registrar of death and births whether this fellow is born or not. So my point is that maybe for the sake of academics, when we are doing it in that belated stage, why we cannot do in the initial stage? That will help us and help the entire electoral machinery to be in readiness, so that once suppose when I am getting my children admitted in the schools and that, so I am also giving one birth register, date of birth. So once the birth is there, it will automatically be in the citizen registry and it will automatically graduate to.
No, I get it. Basically, that is the way we are getting the tentative voters.
Yes,
what we are percentage we are calculating, we are getting from that ratio itself. How much birth happened, and also on that basis by 18 year once one baby complete, it should have been in the, that's for prospective voters we get, and there how much we are. If death and birth registration is being improved in India, in being systematized, but still I think that is not very, we do not have 100 universal institutional birth itself. So still midwifery and then house birth, it is still happening. Of course, there is a registration system in place, but it is not that like universal. So certainly we are inching towards, we will, a day will come and we will be able to collate data from there only. We will not need to go door to door.
Hello. Hello, my name is Ngasepam Sundavijanu. I am from Manipur. My question is to Sir Dr. Bernard. I want to ask a generic question. Despite the huge difference in terms of population size between both the India and the Seychelles, what do you think that both the country can learn each other in terms of electoral process or practices? Give me some relation. Okay. What both the country can learn from one another in terms of electoral process or practices? Any example that both the country can learn from one another regarding election?
I've been listening to the gentleman's question. It would appear that you use the same system as in Seychelles, correct? Where somebody can only vote if they turn up to register, correct? Yes? And in Australia and Canada, this is done automatically. Actually, we did have this system before where people were being automatically registered by the state on reaching the age of 18. But then we found out, because Seychelles is a small country and many people emigrate, or when they are overseas on scholarships and whatnot, and then suddenly some people were voting for them, you see? So, what happened is the opposition or the parties basically petitioned for this system to be stopped, so that now you have to register to vote. However, having said that, when somebody dies, the state has to inform the Electoral Commission that somebody has died, so that we eliminate the person from the register. But we still have people over 100 years on the register. You see what I mean, yes? But that's because you still have people who are citizens on the register and they probably emigrated. You understand? So in this case, they are 100 years on the register, but they have physically died. You understand? They haven't died in Seychelles. They haven't died overseas. They have died overseas. And so by law, we cannot, once you are on the register, we cannot delete you from the register until the state informs the Electoral Commission. You see that? So this is perhaps something that we can learn from each other. I mean, which method is better? Is it to automatically register people and then you end up with having a lot of, how will I call these? Ghost voters, you know? They are ghost voters. Pardon? They have not died at all. Yeah, so I mean, everybody finds a solution that is suitable to their environment, you see? So it's very challenging to actually say, okay, let me take this system that works in your jurisdiction and apply it to mine. The environment is completely different, so you need to respond to whatever exists within your jurisdiction and adapt to it. It might be quite challenging to just use somebody's system. I cannot imagine in Seychelles registering everybody like in Australia. It will simply not work because, like I mentioned, a lot of people emigrate and then come back. So if you insist that everybody on the register has to vote, then you will have to have diaspora voting. You will need to have voting booths everywhere around the world where the Seychelles have emigrated. And so you cannot punish them, can you? If they do not vote, like in Australia, you cannot punish them. So this kind of tells you that you need to adapt the system based on your environment.
Thank you, Bernard, and thank you everyone for such a deliberative session. Discussion session has been very healthy. Now we will move to the concluding session, and taking tips from all the presentations and the discussion followed by, I would say, has to be multilateral stakeholding all the partners, whether it is civil society, government, election bodies, political parties, all have to come together and have some sort of consensus to get entry. If we talk about overcoming the bottlenecks, we have to use technology. That has been being used extensively, but technology itself has a face which keeps changing day in and day out. So we have to be in pace with that changing technology. That is not only for outreach, but for maintaining purity of our electoral role as well. If we talk about registration, the timing of registration has to be continuous, the way India has done, continuous. Anytime anybody is eligible, earlier it used to be 1st January was the cutoff date, now it is 4 dates are there, April, July, October, you qualify, you get registered. So that way, if we talk about the idea, what we can learn from here and move forward, it is a comparative study. We have to learn others and we have to get our lacunae overcome with the help of others' experiences. Similarly, we can learn, of course, from best practices from different states. This study will go on for another maybe like 5-6 months, and we will do that. Supportive electoral reforms is very, very necessary. Whenever there is any gap, we have to overcome by structural reforms, and that is evident, and that has been happening, of course. And the most important part of this IDEA conference is dialogue among the democracies. We should keep talking, we should keep poking each other and then learn from each other. With that, I would say thank you. Thank you very much for each and everyone. Thank you.
We are getting late for the next session, I guess. Yeah. It's been quite late. We just need to wind up as soon as possible, I guess.
I think we have concluded, so this session comes to an end. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. You've been a really great that you bear with me. Thank you. Of course.